talk to each other, trees talk to each other, and trees support each other. They share nutrients back and forth, and if one isn't feeling well, they send antibiotics to that tree.
When you're in the forest, there's no social media, there's no phones, there's no, you're just there. You are attempting to engage all of your senses.
11% of the 252 basic fundamental drugs we have are plant-based.
People don't realize the value of these wild foods. You're getting real nutrition from those things because they're not propagated and chemically sprayed to look perfect. They grow with energy from the soil.
From the Zoomerplex in historic Liberty Village, the Zoomer with Marissa Lennox.
Welcome to the Zoomer. Today we're talking plants, and the big question is, are plants intelligent? Do they communicate with each other? And if so, how? How do humans impact plant life? And conversely, how do humans benefit? But before we dive in, let's tee up the topic.
The untrained eye may only see weeds and shrubs. But dig a little deeper and you'll find out that Canada is home to nearly 4,000 species of native plants, many of which have medicinal properties. Consider the cannabis plant. It's known for its pain-relieving properties. And last year, Zoomers represented half of all new users. The use of traditional Chinese medicines has been documented for over 2,000 years. Ginseng is commonly used to relieve fevers, ease sinus problems, and reduce swelling. Other major medicinal crops include echinacea, licorice, and St. John's wort. While natural therapies may not be an accepted alternative for traditional Western medicines, medicinal plants are increasing in popularity, particularly as a complementary approach to healing.
So the big question, Charlie, is, are plants capable of intelligent behavior? Can they think? Can they talk? Can they heal?
Well, I think we're going to learn a lot here from some of these panelists because we've got some serious experts here. But for sure, we know plants do all kinds of great things for us. But in terms of communication, I think it's fairly recent information, but it came out of the University of British Columbia. Professor Suzanne Simard discovered and proved absolutely clearly in the last 20 years that under the soil, roots talk to each other, trees talk to each other, and trees support each other. They share nutrients back and forth, and if one isn't feeling well, they send antibiotics to that tree. It's absolutely phenomenal. And across the genus as well, not just to their same species, but to other species. So there's a whole world going on under the soil that we've been so unaware of.
And what does that mean, that they can communicate? Now that we know this, what does that mean for us, Gary?
Well, most people don't realize by looking at plant life and nature, you can predict how the spring is going to be in the fall or the winter. You can predict how the summer is going to be. For example, there's certain berries on bushes that, when you see them in the September, October, they look phenomenal, like you'd want to eat them. But when you put them in your mouth, the cyanide content of them and the bitterness is so bad that you wish somebody would have crapped in your mouth. It would be better taste. I'm not kidding. And you just get rid of it. But after the freezing and cooling cycle, in the springtime, the birds coming back to our area, this is their food supply. So you can predict in the fall by the abundance what the spring is going to be like, what kind of snow you're going to have, how it's going to warm up, because that's going to be the food supply for the robins or blackbirds before they start to eat bugs.
That's interesting. Now, Vanessa, you enable plants to sing, and we'll have a performance a little bit later in the show. But talk about intelligent behavior.
Well, what we're actually doing is we're taking the plant physiology and we're capturing that through our device, and we're translating that into musical notes. So you really get an opportunity to hear what's going on in the plant, and based on the environment, so if it's raining or things like that. And it's also, it allows you, for me personally, I love the opportunity to be able to connect with nature on such an intimate level, because you can't help to just pay attention, because it's giving you a voice, like it's letting you feel beyond than just the visual. So we're giving it, invoking the fifth sense, and I love that feeling.
Sherry, you run a horticultural therapy program. Talk to us a little bit about the relationship between humans and plants.
Well, it's on a somewhat of a different level than just the plants being therapeutic in themselves. It's more about what people are doing with the plants and the relationship between people and plants. For example, people that can learn to nurture plants. Often I work with a lot of people with a variety of disabilities and different strengths. And they are often the care receiver. So they are always, someone is always looking after them, but that with plants, they can be the caregiver. And that enables them to have a more positive outlook on life. So it is the connection to the plant that enables them to move forward in that area.
Now, Pat, nature can heal. Gardening has long been viewed as something that's therapeutic. What do we know about the healing power of soil even?
Well, the soil nurtures the plant, and the plant nurtures us. And to continue from what Gary mentioned, plants create their own immunity. They can signal other plants that a predator is coming in, so that they can. So this is all plant intelligence, and we have actually discovered the essential oils that are in the trichomes that are on plant leaves, and we've used those. But I don't think we quite realize how that is nurturing the plant itself, and how that signals to us that plants are really intelligent in terms of protecting themselves.
So a lot to still learn then.
Lots to learn.
All right. When we come back, plants with healing properties that you may not have known about. That's next.
The dandelion is the perfect medicine for your liver. It helps to detoxify your liver. Every part of it, root, stem, flowers, everything is edible.
Welcome back. Could you survive on only the resources from your own land? Gary Thibault is living proof of this. Earlier this week, Zed News videographer Darren Maharaj visited his organic farm, where he showed him some wild plants with nutritional and medicinal properties. Take a look.
Well, Zoomer News is here at the organic farm of raw food specialist, author, and healer Gary Thibault, who says everything that you need in order to survive can be found within 1 mile of where you live.
Well, I grow all my own organic food, nourished naturally food. I don't use any chemicals or pesticides or anything. I just let nature do its thing. I grew up in Northern Ontario with both parents being native to this country. And we were taught to live off the land as kids. This is goldenrod, the yellow flower that grows along the side of the roads. You will see a ball on the stem of a goldenrod. This looks exactly like a prostate swollen up in a man. When you take this and you grind it up as a powder with parts of the plant and you make a tea, people with prostate infections disappear. Like cures like. It looks like the problem in your body, and therefore it's the cure for it. We can see this. This gum is going to start softening up. We used it from sealing up birch bark canoes to healing your skin to eliminating constipation in the body. It kills off any type of infection inside of your gut. You just can't use it every day. One of the greatest food sources in North America that most people don't know about is the Jerusalem artichoke. Once you plant even a piece of it, it will start producing for you forever. Highly starchy, very nutritious. Tastes really good. It's actually better than it looks, after a while.
It actually has a nice crunch to it.
Just try.
Yeah, not bad.
It just tastes like cold potato.
If you're a diabetic, it controls insulin in your blood.
For more great tips on how to be self-sustaining, you can visit Gary's website at garythibault.com. In Terra Nova, Ontario, I'm Darren Maharaj for Zoomer News.
Thanks, Darren. So, Gary, you survive off of only the weeds and resources from your own land.
Well, I do also eat my own eggs, and if I'm
Heard the
hungry...
rooster.
Pure resources.
Well, look, This is the way eggs supposed to look like. Every
Multicolored.
color of the sun, because chickens aren't just one breed. And, you know, what's being done to food today is really not food anymore. So, for example, a lot of people don't recognize certain little things that grow outside. Like, you can see this plant all around the city, and right now the seed looks like this. And the birds that are coming back will be eating the seeds of the Rose of Sharon. The Rose of Sharon seed and the flower is completely edible, and it's very high in fats. Our body physically is 80% fat around our cellular structure, around our veins, nerves. Our brain is 92% fat. People don't realize the value of these wild foods. You're getting real nutrition from those things because they're not propagated and chemically sprayed to look perfect. They grow with energy from the soil.
Okay, but I have to ask, do you ever miss a cheeseburger or some pizza?
Well, unfortunately, I can't tolerate any kind of bread anymore. I just can't do it because of what they're doing to the grain when they're growing it. It's illegal in Europe to do glycosates, but here it is,
Right.
and I can't touch bread. I just can't. I'll swell up or I'll be sick.
Yeah.
You'll have to carry me away.
Look, you know, today's whole show is really about the healing power of plants. And Dr. Shaw, I have to go to you. Do you think that there's a trend to sort of deprescribe, move away from pharmaceuticals, or at least complement someone's traditional medicinal routine with some of these more natural,
Treatments.
Treatments or herbal plants. So Marissa, there has been a trend in the past few decades for people to have a move towards wellness. You know, we are living longer. We want to age gracefully. We want to look great. We want to feel great. And we want to feel great in how we have our bowel movements, how we look, you know, how everything's going within our bodies. So a lot of people who have been prescribed various different medications, and I'm not saying that there is, well, a lot of people are wanting to move towards a more natural way of healing. But having said that, this is where the naturopathic part comes in. As a naturopathic doctor, our job is to address the root of the problem. And the way you are doing this is when you go and see a naturopathic doctor, when you're sitting with me for an hour and a half. And in that, we are going through every body's system. And healing is not just, well, I have a little wound here or a bruise here, or I have a blood pressure issue and I'm going to heal that. No, you're looking at a physical, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual aspect of a being too. So there has to be holistic healing. Plants are holistic in nature, right? So when we are looking at prescriptions, what are they? 11% of the 252 basic fundamental drugs we have are plant-based, right? So we know that plants have a lot of healing properties.
Absolutely. So, you know, Charlie, what are some plants that we could even find in our own backyard that are healing for, you know, simple ailments, like even just a headache or a burn? I'm thinking aloe vera.
Aloe vera, we all know that one. But you know what I was just thinking as you were speaking? It all starts with the plants.
Absolutely.
Like that's one of the things I teach at the college. I teach horticulture. Whether it's, you know, ultimately, if you're a meat eater, you're eating cows and pigs, et cetera. But what are they eating? Plants. Like it all starts with the plants. So there would be no life on Earth without plants. And that's,
Absolutely.
and of course, to Gary's point, it's all about the diversity and the biodiversity and the avoiding a monoculture, which is what we see so much in agriculture and the traditional, conventional horticulture and agriculture. So in our own backyards, Rose of Sharon is a great example. Any of the hibiscus are super wonderful. Who hasn't consumed a little hibiscus tea at some point, right? Echinacea,
And
so
it's-
well known for its
And by
healing.
consuming, it's not just, you know, you could put it in a tea or you could turn it into an oil, mix it with some.
Well, and of course, the trend right now is all the CBD salves. Everybody's got a sore spot, like my shoulder hurts, so I need a little CBD on my shoulder. And so there's a lot of that going on as well. The use of poultices, of skin lotions and creams. Just, it's great. It's wonderful. I love it.
Well, if everybody just ate the dandelions in their yard, we wouldn't have to spray them.
That's right. And they're very edible.
And their skin and their liver, which is, and your eyesight
Well,
would
and
improve.
what good do dandelions bring?
Well, the dandelion is the perfect medicine for your liver. It helps to detoxify your liver. Every part of it, roots, stem, flowers, everything is edible.
Yeah.
And I cook with them. I make stir fries with them, with other vegetables.
Wine with them.
I grew up,
Yeah.
my father is from Italy. He would go in the backyard and pick up the dandelion leaves and put that in the salad. And
Right.
I thought he was nuts back then, but clearly he was best interest at heart. So
Yeah, well, most Italians always pick chicory with the blue flower.
Yeah.
And they call the yellow flower chicoria as well, but it's two separate plants. And they both have the similar healing properties.
All right, well, when we come back, a walk in the woods is good for mind and body. We'll explain.
It's just not about just walking in the woods, but it's feeling those plants. It's touching the barks. It's feeling the texture of the leaves. It's just getting to be one in nature or being part of nature.
I'm Judy Dench, and I've been an actor for 60 years. But I have another passion, which may come as quite a surprise. Ever since I've been a little girl, I've adored trees. Oh, it's lovely. I've even turned my 6-acre garden into a secret woodland. And I think of my trees as part of my extended family. Isn't that just beautiful? I'll hear what's going on beneath the bark when they burst back into life in spring.
And now we're going to place it back on the tree.
How they fight back against invading hordes.
So what we can see here is one of the fine roots of the tree.
This is underground.
This is all underground. And you can see these very fine threads extending into the soil. This is the fungus.
These threads build up and up until they cover the tip of the root completely, like a sock. And from there, they spread out under the forest floor.
These below-ground fungi are not just attached to one tree, they can be attached to several, so communication can occur below.
Underground system.
Yes.
Welcome back. That was Dame Judy Dench sharing her passion for trees and learning about the science of how trees communicate. Now, Sherry, you take people with anxieties and other mental health issues into nature. What's been your experience with the impact that has had?
Well, it's had a pretty profound impact with most people. Part of the reasons is, besides just being among the trees, which, as we know, trees take in carbon dioxide from the air and through the process of photosynthesis make sugar, which feeds them, but then they put more oxygen back into the air. So you're breathing, you have the benefit of the extra oxygen. Trees and plants also produce phytosins. And if you break down the word, phyton is actually the Latin word for plant, and syn is a germ. So these are compounds that the trees and plants are producing to help protect them against insects and against disease. And the theory is that for those of us who then can be around that and can absorb that, we're also benefiting. Some of the benefit is simply when you're in the forest, there's no social media, there's no phones, there's no, you're just there. You are attempting to engage all of your senses, your sight, your hearing, the smell, taste, your hands, the touch with your hands and your feet, and having all those things together and spending the time absorbing.
Now, forest bathing is a new trend in North America.
In North America.
But it's been used in Japan for some 30 years now.
1982.
Is it similar to sort of what Sherry was talking about?
Absolutely. Doctors actually write prescriptions for patients every day, half an hour walk in the woods. No cell phones.
That's what that means. Just take a walk in the woods.
Take a walk in the woods. Just a simple take a walk in the woods, but with no distractions. So walk alone, or if you're walking with people, walk quietly and be here now.
And I think with forest bathing, it's just not about just walking in the woods, but it's feeling those plants. It's touching the barks. It's feeling the texture of the leaves. It's just getting to be one in nature or being part of nature, and we are part of nature, right? So it's all the energetic connections that you're feeling as well. And that's something that I absolutely tell my patients to do, especially if they are working or, you know, like sitting in front of the computer for 8 hours a day and they're not getting they're not getting any fresh air, or they're not getting any green space. And I mean, if you look at a lot of buildings these days, and a lot of offices are having, you know, green spaces, or basically they're putting in plants and whatnot. So if you walk into a room where you have barren walls versus a beautiful green wall like that, right? Like, it just cheers you up. It gives you that positivity.
Well, and there was a Harvard study that looked at 100,000 nurses. It sounds like you're familiar with it. Looked at 100,000 nurses and found that those that lived in greener areas were 12%, had a 12% lower risk of early death, depression, anxiety. So when we talk about the benefits of being in nature, I mean, what's really happening to us?
What's happening is that our heart rates are slowing down, our blood pressure is leveling out, we're breathing better because the pherones and the essential oils from cedar and pine, those contain eucalyptus, so we're breathing that in, we're breathing clear, and we're generally, I mean, Shinrin Yoku, which is the Japanese term for forest bathing, the scientists have done studies that actually prove that our blood pressure goes down, and it's only, I mean, 20 minutes can do as much as an hour and a half in the forest.
But they even found with biophilic design of bringing the outdoors in, and a lot of major corporations are doing that, including Amazon and Google, and they found the rate of turnover has gone down. The level of illness has gone down.
Creativity goes up, problem solving goes up.
Absolutely, it's about bringing that energy in, and you do feel a difference. And I forest bathe, I know exactly. It's just the most, and I hug the trees at the end. I always do that. I hug them at the end and say thank you.
And one of the key things you want to also talk about is the cortisol levels. So living in a society where you're go, 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 when we look at our cortisol levels are our stress hormone levels, and they are off the roof. And what are they leading towards? So basically, when you see high cortisol levels over a prolonged period of time, you are seeing increased blood pressure levels, you're seeing increased lipid or cholesterol levels, you're having insulin resistance, or you're having metabolic syndrome, unable to lose weight. And if you're just going out in the nature, just breathing in for 5 to 10 minutes, those cortisol levels are just dropping. And just giving another example of just plants that can also help us bring that down is like your lavender, right? When you just take in a whiff of lavender, and that's kind of helping you relax and giving you that sedative or relaxation property. So yes, absolutely.
All right, well, when we come back, unique ways to bring green space into your home. Stay tuned.
This system here, though, is essentially a self-contained unit. You can roll it around, so you can move it indoors onto your balcony in the summer if you want it. If you're having a party, you want to move it out of the way because you need to make space for all your guests.
Welcome back. Living walls, green walls, vertical gardens. You may have seen them in hotel lobbies or shopping centers, but they become much more common in residential homes and apartment buildings, especially in cities where space is limited. Christian Malstead, president of Ginkgo Sustainability Inc., joins me now to demonstrate how to bring the beauty of the outside in. Christian, thanks for being here, and thanks for bringing this beautiful living wall. Let's start with the benefits.
They obviously brighten and green up your space. Reduce, I mean, some of your panelists earlier, I heard they mentioned some of those benefits of basically providing you with cleaner air, reducing CO2, reducing VOCs, and that innate sort of biophilic feeling of simply being closer to plants, which is really tough to do in urban environments like downtown Toronto.
Now, what's the first thing someone needs to do or know when thinking about bringing this into their home?
The scale of what they want to achieve, I think, is the biggest thing.
But how about location in the space?
Well, where I was going with scale is if you have a larger project, there's a lot more engineering and attributes you need to think about, whereas as it gets smaller, you can play around with self-contained systems like this. And Whether you want to grow herbs, for example, for your kitchen is a lot different than having indoor tropicals to simply providing sort of those biophilic spaces and air cleaning qualities.
So by self-sustained, you mean this doesn't necessarily need to be near a window, near sunlight, because it has the capacity to...
This unit, like, yeah, we can provide artificial light, so you don't necessarily need to have a whole bunch of light. The plants need water, nutrients, and light. Light we can provide artificially. Water is from a reservoir or a self-connect in this case. And fertilizer is, we add fertilizer in microdoses to provide the nutrients in this case.
Now I'm thinking about a lot of Zoomers downsizing from their big suburban home to a condo in the city. Maybe they're missing their green space, but how easy is it to bring this into a condo?
Very easy. Depending on the system. This system here, though, is essentially a self-contained unit. You can roll it around, so you can move it indoors onto your balcony in the summer if you wanted. Move it in your unit. If you're having a party, you want to move it out of the way because you need to make space for all your guests. It comes with also a light as well, so you can, it's basically a small self-contained unit that all you need to do really is add water to, and if you have a green thumb, you maintain the plants, and if you don't, there's indoor tropical plant people that can maintain it for you. So.
Well, and I was just going to say, for a lot of people who don't have a green thumb but love the visual look of it, what are some of the maintenance steps that they need to be aware of?
Making sure the water is topped up, making sure that there's power to the unit, otherwise the pump won't work. And in terms of making sure you test the water quality a few times a year to make sure that you don't have like salts or other things building up that'll cause issues for the plants. And keeping an eye on the plants themselves to see if they're starting to yellow or they're other issues on the plant leaves that'll give you an indication that something might be a little bit awry.
All right, well, tons of benefits, but not cheap. What would this cost someone?
This unit here is $5,000 to $6,000, depending on whether there's a light included. And then if you want a maintenance package on top of that as well.
It might be a bit of an additional cost.
Additional.
Okay, but it's beautiful.
How often you want us to come by and take a look at it.
Okay, all right. Okay, Christian, thanks so much for bringing it in. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for
when
having
we
us.
come back, there's more after the break.
Depending on the plant and its movement, the musical notes that are produced may reflect the activity of the plant itself.
Welcome back. What if you could hear your plants create music? My next guest from Plant Choir is here to show us how it's done. Vanessa, thank you for being here. Before we take a listen, I am eager to know how it's done. So tell us a little bit about the process here.
Okay, so this is actually based on polygraph technology, and what's happening is that in the device is sending out a very soft microcurrent, and it's actually measuring the physiology, so the resistance of the plant's physiology, and from that it goes to our app, and you can assign different instruments, and the notes are actually reflective of what's going on inside the plant.
So would it sound different if it was maybe raining or?
Yeah, what can happen is, well, on the app it shows different activity levels. So sometimes if it's outside or if it's raining or windy, and also depending on the plant and its movement, the musical notes that are produced may reflect the activity of the plant itself. So sometimes it plays all the time and sometimes it's a little bit quiet.
Okay, let's take a listen.
Okay. So I've got 4 instruments playing because I've got 4 pucks attached to 4 different plants, including Bella.
It's very soothing, almost white noise almost.
Well, you know, we thought if we put in like electric guitar, it might be a bit startling to have your plants screaming at you as soon as you come through the house, but yeah.
But, you know, why would someone make use of this technology? Where would you play this?
Well, I mean, here's a perfect example. You have a living wall, you could actually attach plank wire and have your living wall not just being something that helps ground you, but actually interact with your plant life in a very mindful and unique way. I've actually had the experience of taking it to a chiropractor who bought a few of our plant wires, and as he was adjusting my body, he assigned one plant, the bongo drums. And when he hit my shoulder, that was very sore. The plant only played the bongo drums when he hit my shoulder, where the other 3 plants just played all the time.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and I have videos of me interacting with plant life that would only react when I went near it. And I also attach plant wire in the summer during our barbecue in our courtyard. So we have plant music playing while we enjoy an outdoor barbecue.
So what can we learn about the plants from this music?
Well, I think it's more along the lines of really having the ability to experiment with your plants. I always say this is for like naturally curious souls. So I've done very different things. Like I've got Fred the money tree here and Bella the bonsai, who's being quiet right now, and we have the lilies. And I find what you can learn is kind of the way your energy interacts with the plant's energy, and then this music kind of almost, you know, gives you feedback on that.
So if you were to touch the plant that's being quiet, is it this guy?
The one that's being kind of quiet is, yeah, you can try touching that one. I always try to touch them all because sometimes I find...
Would it make a difference to the noise?
Yeah, so that one just spiked up. That one just spiked up. So, yeah, and so now 3 of them got quiet, and now they're starting to play again. So what I'm finding is sometimes when you touch one plant, it's almost like the other one gets jealous. And so it starts playing. It's like, no, 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 not without me. So I mean, I love this. I love being able to hear what my plant is doing. You know, you talk about that root system underground. This is giving it a voice, and I love to experiment and try different things.
Again, some people may find this gimmicky, but it's based in science.
Yes, it is.
I mean, tell us a little bit about the science.
So the company that created this is called Limestone Technologies, and they actually manufacture and produce polygraph software and hardware. And so when you are hooked up to a lie detection system, you have like, you know, the blood pressure cuff and the heart monitor and have all of that. But one of the things you actually have is a cuff that goes around your hand. It's called an electrodermal activity. That's what it tracks. So it actually tracks the skin reaction. So it's very, very sensitive, right? And so it's like the little things that happen in your skin. And the polygraph, that's probably the highest rate. So our system actually is one of the best in the world with the greatest range. So we took that EDA technology, and that's actually through the clips, that's what it's doing. So the same thing that it tracks on the human person, the physiology, is doing for the plant.
That's so neat. Now I understand you did an experiment where you put a plant under stress. What happened?
Yeah, so the history of, there's a gentleman by the name of Cleve Baxter. What he did in February 2nd of 1966, he was a polygraph expert, worked with the CIA, world renowned, highly respected. And he bought a Dracaena cane plant because it was on sale. He wasn't a huge plant lover, but he hooked it up to the polygraph. And when he hooked up the polygraph, he tried a lot of different experiments that afternoon, but didn't really get the reaction from the EDA. So he thought, I'm just gonna light it on fire. I'm gonna burn it. And the minute he thought about it, the polygraph went nuts. And so from there, he had this belief of having the sentient, that plants were sentient beings and we could communicate. And he spent his career both as a world-renowned polygraph examiner and somewhat of a, you know, a botanist that actually experimented with plants on that level.
That's super neat. All right. Well, thank you for bringing in this technology and for introducing us to plants,
Thank you.
Plants who sing.
They do sing.
When we come back, final thoughts. That's next.
Don't forget, for free tickets to the show, go to www.universe.com and search Zoomer Media and log on to www.thezoomertv.com for full episodes and more.
Welcome back to the show. Now, before we get to final thoughts, one of the things that we haven't yet touched on are the healing properties of the marijuana plant. Pat, why don't you walk us through some? Go ahead.
Yes. Well, first of all, I mean, cannabis and humanity basically grew up together. 2,000 years ago, humans discovered that the plant had lots of healing benefits and also psychedelic effects as well. So it grew up to be a theogen, which means that it's used spiritually in rituals as well as a definite healing plant. And unfortunately, we've kind of focused on two cannabinoids, THC and CBD. But there are 112 or so cannabinoids in cannabis, and we need to embrace all of those because they all contribute in a synergistic way. So I'm all about, as a culinary herbalist, I'm all about whole plant healing. I'm about organically growing your own and using it from the root to the leaves to the flower.
Now, I've always understood the CBD component to be the one that's the healing property, but it doesn't have that euphoric.
It does. You're right. You're absolutely right. And so the CBD property became famous through a little girl named Charlotte, and her parents were. It's an actual. It suppresses seizures. But also the THC does as well. And there's a myriad of other components in cannabis that also help with seizures. But for little Charlotte, they had to eliminate the THC, so they focused on the CBD for that property. And there is a strain called Charlotte's Web now in honor of her because it really, she was really the first case that proved that cannabis can help with seizures. But it has a great other healing benefits. The three that I like to focus on for our age group is pain, sleep, and inflammation, because both THC and CBD and all of the other hundreds of cannabinoids that are in cannabis can help with those three elements, among other things. But lots of research needs to be done right now.
That's
Canada's
the best thing about legalization. Sorry to interrupt. The fact that now it's legal plant to be grown, to be studied, for money to go into. There's so much to learn.
Absolutely.
Instead of it all being done in back alleys and anecdotally, there's very little science.
And cheers to Canada, because Canada will be leading the way because scientists have free and healthy access to the plant. Yeah.
All right, well, why don't we get started with our final thoughts? Charlie?
Do I get to start? Oh, okay. So as you may or may not know, we're starting to produce a documentary series called Healing Gardens, which I'm quite involved in. So I can't tell you, I'm super excited. Like, think of the things that we are going to be pursuing, learning, and sharing with each other and the world through the joy of television. Great. Good stuff. I loved your choir.
Well,
so soothing.
I have to say, just meeting with everyone on the panel today, I want everyone's business card because I just want to bring plant choir. I'm learning so much, and I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I can't thank you enough for allowing us all to be here on this panel to be able to share this knowledge. And there's so much more. It's almost like you need a longer show to do it. So thank you.
So Marissa, thank you for having us on this show, absolutely. And like you said, like with legalization, you are doing a lot of research for plants and whatnot. So most of the plants we know, they do have properties. On our plates, they are okay. But if you are going to be using them in encapsulated forms, please talk to your naturopath because they do have their side effects, and let your medical doctor know if you're using any herbs with your medications because there's interactions. And this is where we run into a lot of problems. So while plants are healing, they do have their little naughty parts too. So we've got to be careful with them.
Yeah. So I just want to reiterate, I see it in my practice every day, the healing powers of plants and people, the connection between, reductions in social anxiety, increase in self-esteem, reduction in social isolation. There's all kinds of things that, that I see that are part of the plant process, whether we're growing flowers or growing food. It's just the process of people getting out, learning to do these things, getting their hands in the dirt, and really slowing down and letting nature almost come to us. Yeah.
Well, you know, I come from a different perspective, I guess, because plant medicine is just part of my daily routine. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand the biodiversity that we have. The boreal forest, basically, which consider 3 areas, northern, central, which we're in, and South Carolina forest, has the greatest amount of natural medicine on Earth anywhere in the world. It far outnumbers anything in the tropics or in South America, and that's been known for a long time. So, you know, a lot of people are not paying attention to what's really around them and how they need to open their eyes and their ears and their nose to what's going on around them, and it will protect their life.
My final thought would be, or advice would be, to put more plants on your plate. The best way is to incorporate fresh herbs. A little bit of turmeric can help with inflammation. Turmeric and cinnamon every day in your smoothie. Even adding parsley, fresh parsley, can help with your vitamin C content. So you know, if your takeaway is just put more plants on that plate and eat them with your hands.
And surround yourself with plants.
Yes.
Hug a tree.
All right, well, that's all the time we have. A big thank you to my panelists, to the audience in studio and at home. We'll see you soon. For now, it's time to zoom out.